do kind of think in the South, I know that the work ethics are taught all over, right? All over the world, of the planet. But in the South especially, though, that is a thing. I came from people, you give 200%, right? You put it all in, you do it all that. I mean, and it's interesting. By the way, I also put out some books. There's different books that I've read or read and reading again. And I just put them up because the other thing I found out about leaders is leaders are readers.
That's so true.
Because you stay, like I said, you stay in it. So today it's not always reading books, though. You might follow a certain social media influencer as well, conferences, the podcasts that you can maybe even listen to and learn. So, I mean, what other mediums do you think as a leader that you like to dive into?
I read a ton of books. I really hope my husband listens to this and knows that other people do the same. 'Cause he's like, why do we have to have so many books? But I mean, you've got to invest in yourself, and there's so many different perspectives out there that you can learn on how to be a better person.
By the way, invest in yourself.
That's key.
Brilliant. Let's all write that down, shall we, class?
It's good.
Invest in yourself. Yes.
Invest in yourself. That is so good.
If you want people to follow you, like, you have to show up. That's why I showed up at your door in a nice dress, you know.
Yeah.
If I showed up and my hair was all fluffy and I didn't brush my teeth.
We'd have still let you on.
Yeah, probably so.
100%.
It actually would have made for better.
It would have probably.
But I see what you're saying.
It would have.
It's everything. Leadership is people follow who they want to emulate, and they follow energy, and they follow positivity, and they follow purpose. That's what people follow.
So good.
Yes.
So good. Anybody else? I don't want to be the one hogging.
Well, I wrote down for leadership: integrity, self-awareness, courage, respect, compassion, resilience, vision, gratitude, collaboration, and communication. Those are some of the key principles to leadership.
It's like a leadership soup.
Break them all down individually, but those are some of the things to follow.
Definitely qualities that you should have as a leader. I mean, I think leaders are good communicators for sure.
Yeah, self-awareness is a big one, I feel like. Like, you don't learn stuff if you're not aware of what's happening.
Do you guys have, and Brittany as well, do you have any leaders, famous leaders that you've looked up to over the years? I mean, obviously, for me, I've got personal people that were in my life. My parents were huge influencers in my life and different aspects. I mean, I'm on time. Like, on time for me is early.
You are.
Right?
You are always.
That comes from my dad. My dad was always, like, punctuality was huge in my household.
You're not 10 minutes early, you're late.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But do you have any other, and we can just chime in anybody, but Brittany, how about you? Do you have any, like, famous leader or, people that maybe you don't know that you're like, I like what that person's doing?
I mean, the first person that comes top of mind to me is a speaker that I heard probably about a year or so ago at a local conference. His name was Jeff. I think his last name's Hoffman or Hoofman. Okay. But he just had this really cool story about how he grew up in the sticks and single mom. They didn't have a lot of money. And he, I think he's actually the person who created the machines at the airport where you get your self-checkout ticket or, when you check in, so you don't have to go up. And just his whole story of how he started from nothing. He was surrounded by nothing. Yeah. He's like a multi-billionaire now. Sure. And he just explained, how humans and each other tend to put limitations on ourselves. And say, oh, you can't do that. It's not the right time. And he just unpacked all of that. He said, I want a Ferrari. I'm going to get a Ferrari. I want this job. I want to travel. I'm going to do it, And so that, again, was just top of mind for me. And I love it of, like, you're putting your own limitations on yourself and making sure that when you have that thought process, who are you surrounding yourself with?
That's the most important.
That circle of people.
Yep.
Yeah. The one thing I think too that's really important in leadership is mental health. So when you talk about, like, surrounding yourself with the right people, I mean, you can really I think mental health means a lot too in leaders, because you can get really frazzled. Yeah. I mean, you could be leading an organization and be frazzled. I mean, there's been times I've been in business and something's happened and just taken my breath away. I mean, Joe, if you've listened to this podcast at all and you've watched the podcast, seen some of the reels, that Joe and I have worked together at a sanitation company that my family owned, and Joe was our vice president. And there were times there, I mean, you'd call me and be like, hey, we're on Fox 5 News because our truck's on fire. And I'm like, great. Great.
Good
once a
morning.
week,
Just
or
what
how
I
often
need at
was this?
7:30 in the morning.
That happened the other day here, actually.
Yeah, no.
Truck caught
So
on fire.
we
Yeah.
had 3 of them catch on fire
Within about
in
3 or 4 months.
Was
months.
it? What is it? Batteries? What would cause that?
We had, so there was this. We're going to dive deep.
This is a deep
They
dive.
they have hydraulic lines all over the trucks to engage the working
Yeah.
motion of the packer.
Okay.
And the main hydraulic line comes right behind the cab of the truck as it goes right into what they call PTO, power transfer. But that is also packed in there because the government, in all their wisdom, decided we needed diesel particle filters that would then take the diesel, filter it out so that you had cleaner emissions. But that takes all of that after you're burning the exhaust before it then is released in. It is thousands of degrees in temperature to do that, to burn a cleaner fuel. That line broke. We found it, and we had a driver that when it broke, he shut everything down instead. But when it broke, and if it broke in concert with that diesel particle filter, it would ignite the truck.
Like an explosion.
And cause on fire. I mean, we had a manufacturer's claim that ended up, we had those trucks replaced.
Yeah.
Everything ultimately worked out, but it's just, I mean, really is a stain on your business. Aside from the ability that you now don't have a truck. You had employees that could have been harmed. Everybody was safe, thank goodness. There's nobody in the community that was harmed. But we're talking a truck burnt to the rims.
Dang, that's
nothing
crazy.
left on it. It
What's
was
one of
so
those
hot.
trucks cost?
So back then, now there has been inflation.
I'm sure.
Inflation.
And going back now, it's been 15, 16 years ago. I mean, the last trucks I remember were around $250,000 to $320,000, depending
not
on how
only
you
you're down-
optioned them out. And you could
without
go,
the truck, you're
you
down
could go
that-
less
the
than
truck
that. You could buy
in the-
used. You could buy smaller.
In the loop.
We were talking brand new, pearly shiny with everything on it. Let's call it $300,000. I'm imagining that where you're in towards the $500,000
That's what I said,
range
they're
for that
5 now.
same truck.
Yeah.
I'm imagining based on all the components that come together to make a truck. I mean, you talk about having leadership to execution of the chain to bring a truck together. I mean, everything from you go down to like brakes to tires to everything else. I mean, that's insane.
Man, we were in a tough spot too because we needed those trucks. We were in growth mode, and so when
Yeah.
a truck burned down,
It wasn't just a
you're-
truck.
you're
It was
down.
on
a truck,
It's
it was
no route.
That's right.
Yeah.
You had to find a truck for that
And we were
route.
But we had
pre-ordering these
backups,
trucks,
but-
almost a year out.
Yeah.
And so we were in a tough spot.
Well, when we were coming up there, the county we grew up in was one of the top 10 fastest growing counties in the nation.
Yeah.
So people were moving in all the time, always needing service, always wanting service. So
And then
doing
you
that-
moved here, which is the second fastest growing county in the country.
Yeah, but Brittany, where you're at, I mean, dealing with property managers, you're the fast pace of it's got to be crazy. So where we all feel like, so when we live at the beach, we all do, except for Joe. He's first podcast.
Loser.
I'm sorry.
Second glass of wine.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
But we live at the beach. We all feel like time slows down here sometimes. Where people think that about all of us down here. When they come to the beach, it's just like, on the beach, I cast my cares away, I'm around the water. And although I do think when I see the water, I'm very fortunate to see the water every day.
Mm-hmm.
It is calming. So I do appreciate that. But when was the last time you were at the beach?
I cannot remember.
in a chair with a towel
In a chair with a towel.
at the beach.
Yeah.
It's weird. You think you'd go every day here.
Right.
I went twice last year. Now I had some surgery, so I couldn't
Yeah.
get there. But you have life, you have school, you have church, you have life going on, just like you
Yeah.
do everywhere else. So
Yeah, we probably
there's
go
the
to the
beach.
beach. We probably go to the beach more in Atlanta than y'all do.
You probably
we
do.
go
You
every
do.
day.
You come to
Every couple months,
absolutely.
we go for a long weekend. We're chilling. at the beach.
Vacationers 100% enjoy this place much more than we do.
They do.
Yes.
They do.
And it's fast paced what you're doing though. So where people think time stops, short term rentals are going all
Never
the
stop.
Never stop.
Yes.
All day, every day.
I feel like the Tasmanian devil.
Yeah.
I mean, task management is a big part of leadership, right?
It is.
What's your secret sauce to tasking? Putting things down and figuring it out and executing.
Everything is incredibly detailed and everything gets documented.
Oh yeah.
We also don't use words like it's done I don't know what it's done means. Like,
Yeah.
did you complete the task? Did you drop it off? What did you do?
You just can't say it's done.
Yeah.
So you're talking when you're dealing with someone that you're saying, hey, you're going to go and this person needs, a plunger or something. That it's done doesn't work for you.
No, it does not.
Dropped off
That is
into
such
their
a-
hand.
But that goes back to kind of communication, right?
Yeah.
You need to know it's done, but it's done. That's right. You must deal with a lot of people that like to use slang. I've noticed that, bruh.
Yeah.
It's done.
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 Take care of it.
That's Riz.
Get her done.
What are some of the other things the kids are saying these days? That's crazy.
The bruh thing is.
The bros.
bruh thing.
Yeah.
Molly, I don't know.
Oh my gosh. I
What
drove.
was it?
Molly?
Molly?
Popping
That
some
they're
Molly?
taking
Is that-
or
is that-
saying?
Does
Molly?
people say that? I don't-
Molly, I think
Is Molly-
I
that's
think
actually
it's a
probably 10
drug.
years ago,
I think
yeah.
that's a
Molly
drug.
is the thing you
Oh.
take.
I think it's still.
Oh, that's what
probably-
it's a drug?
Molly?
You just know this now?
I have Molly at my
I
house.
feel like
guess.
I'm
I would not
outside
take
of the
it.
drug game. I'm
Choose,
so
don't
far
take the Molly.
outside of the
Don't take
illicit
the Molly?
drug
Flush it in
game.
the toilet.
Okay.
But I still know what Molly is. Now I don't know exactly what Molly does.
Is it an
but
upper
I mean,
or a downer?
I think
dude,
it's an
I
upper.
don't know.
It's an upper?
Pretty much, it's not a
It's
downer.
It's a rave thing.
It's
right?
a club thing. If it was a downer, everybody would be
By the
laying on the
way,
ground.
don't take Molly.
Yeah,
I would 100%.
I would go ahead and flush that.
Leaders
Don't ever date a
do
chick named
Molly.
Molly. I can
Leaders
tell you
don't
that
take Molly.
also.
Leaders don't do Molly.
Boom.